Welcome to the show. We are back. The Dynasty Show. We missed last week, but we're back here tonight. Hammer in the building. What's good, Hammer?
What to do?
Nothing much. Just I finished up a draft like yesterday. Because we do the slow draft. So I like my team. This team is like it's built for like now and the future. So like it's a different kind of team. I've got two like older-ish quarterbacks, but they're not really like old. So I'll go over that. But how about you? Any startups? Anything you got going on already?
Not at the moment. Been kind of taking it easy, just following the news, kind of reading around. Definitely some interesting things to talk about.
Yes,
Uh,
we are going to talk about a few
that's
things.
that's pretty much it right now. I mean, normally I don't get like started until pretty much free agency is kind of when I start, getting the wheel spinning again, take a little bit of a break, a little refresh. Obviously, it was a shitty season fantasy wise for me. So I needed to take a little bit of a break and kind of realign, the stars, so to speak. So yeah, taking a little bit of a break, but yeah, man, just once free agency kind of hits, that's when I get back into it. Then you got the combine, the draft, training camp a couple of months after that. So that's what we do.
Word. Daniel, what up, Daniel? In the building. Derek in the building. What's good, Derek?
My man, Derek
Diaz, what up, Diaz?
Diaz.
You know who's in the league
Always.
with me? It just so happens in this league, Diaz is in this league with me.
It doesn't just so happen. I don't think that was by mistake. There's something going on there. We're gonna look deeper into that.
Oh God! Of course, Diaz comes out with a bunch of next year
Trades,
first. Yep, yep,
trades.
yep.
Yeah, we know what he
Doing his
does.
thing. Diaz
We
doing
know
his
what we
thing.
know what Diaz is up to. He's a
Giants
swashbuckler.
fan. What's up, Giants fan? Just popped in, hit the like button. Have a good stream. Appreciate you.
Yes, we definitely appreciate that.
5 startups, DS said. All right, best time of the year to place bets on situations where you can bet on guys improving their value or not. Get these picks cheap, pick up shares you don't have. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I always find like when you have like the rookie draft implemented in where you're, like taking the kickers with a 101, 102, like there's advantages there because people are not, people are just like automatically putting the name there and you can get guys at certain cheaper prices in these startups. Song in the building. What up, Song? What's goody? Don't get me started with this league, Stevie. Oh man, but yeah, we got some buy sell holds. We're gonna go over a few different guys today. Some of those guys being T. Higgins, Justin Fields, Josh Jacobs, and Dalton Schultz. And we'll talk about some like just interesting shit that's happened. I guess everyone saw the whole Cam Newton thing. There's actually a better video that came out that was closer up to him when he was going towards like the gate, towards the fence. And he's got like one guy, he's got like almost like in a headlock type shit, and he's holding this other guy with his other hand, like a stiff arm. But yeah, it's crazy because it's like, he's doing the shit for the kids, like, and then you're going up there and doing something like that. Like, there's just no respect. I mean, this guy is an MVP fucking Cam Newton in his prime was like one of the best quarterbacks, dude. And he didn't really have nothing around him. He was the dog. Like he was the guy. Like he had Steve Smith, but he didn't
Towards
have
the
like the
end, yeah, Steve
dominant, like
Smith
he
is a little
didn't
bit
have
older.
these dominant weapons around him. He didn't have Debo Samuel, CMC, and fucking, Brandon Ayuk. Like he didn't have that type of team. He was the team.
I will say this about Cam Newton. First of all, if you're a high school kid and you're messing around with a fully grown man that's 6'5", 245, you got mental issues to begin with. That's number one. Number two, like people, for whatever reason, Cam is a very polarizing figure, right? I guess just because of his personality, especially post career, he wears the crazy hats, he has the crazy hair kind of going on now. Obviously his podcast, is heating up a little bit and stuff like that. But I just, what like you said, he's doing this to pass on his blessings to high school kids. And this is what comes of it. I was actually watching First Take today, and Shannon Sharp made a really interesting point. He was like, if I'm Cam Newton and I'm doing this good to pass on these blessings that I have, and this is how people are going to behave, I'm shutting it down. Like, I'm shutting it down. Like, I have no time for it. I have no energy to be getting into that. And do you remember there was a bit of a scuffle with him and high school kids not that long ago where there wasn't any physical contact. I don't know if you remember, but they were like
Was it
talking
just
shit to him, or
and
they
he
were
was
just
just like,
being
"Oh,
very
but
like,
he was like, but I'm rich," or some shit like that?
yeah,
Was it
yeah.
that one?
So yeah, it was that
Yeah,
one. So
that was just a little words back and forth, but yeah.
but that's what that sort of thing leads to, right? It invites that type of energy, and I just think that that's something, especially at Cam Newton's point in his life, like he's just trying to do good and be out there and kind of put things together for, probably people that are less fortunate than him, and pass on, like you
Mhm.
said, blessings. And I just think it was really unfortunate for it to get to that. I heard there was something out there though. They said where they didn't realize it was Cam Newton because he had a hat on or something. Like they didn't know
No,
that
no,
was
I
it
heard
was
the
something
opposite.
crazy like that.
I heard that they found the guy that initially tried to jump him, and apparently it was something from like the day before, like a game they played against somebody else or something like that. And there was like a tiny scuffle going on there. And so that particular guy was like talking shit, and apparently they know who it is. But I mean, I don't know. Maybe we don't know the real story. Who knows? All I saw was what we saw Cam Newton do for most of his career, just not go down.
Mhm.
So I mean, yeah, but
Just
that's crazy.
ragdolling people,
They
yeah.
can't be doing all that. And I think that's kind of why like people don't like Cam, because sometimes I think like he feels he doesn't get the respect that he deserves. Like I said, he was the dude on that squad. Like he was the whole
Not
team.
all.
And I don't think that he gets enough credit. So I don't know. People look at him differently. And then, talking about the whole Brock Purdy game manager thing, that set off a whole bunch of shit as well. So
Mhm.
I don't know. I
He's a
don't know.
controversial
Chaotic.
character. I mean, listen, but very polarizing, like I said. I just think that that sort of thing can't happen, especially in that type of environment, right? Where you're trying to do good with high school kids and blah blah
Especially
blah.
there.
But I don't know. I think there's a lot more deeper issues that are going on
And
that lead to something like that. I think there's a lot more deeper issues that are going on there, especially like, if if I'm a high school kid, right? And say like I love basketball, and if Kobe Bryant or one of my favorite basketball players, or just really any famous basketball player that retired, was doing a camp and I was there, or they were running some rec league or something, like I would want to be like as respectful and you know what I mean? Like that just
mhm,
I don't know, maybe it's the way I was raised or whatever the case may be, but like I'll be super excited. I want to pick their brain 24/7. I'd want to like interact with them, conversate,
mhm.
and these dudes are out here fighting and scuffling and trying like what is going on?
They were saying, I think it was Shannon Sharp actually. I saw a little clip, and he was saying, he's like, this don't happen at Eli Manning or Peyton Manning's camp, right? He's like,
No.
that shit don't happen there. Like nobody's trying to do that there. It's crazy.
It's bananas.
But yeah, there's a couple things we'll hit on. But yeah, that's crazy. Chaotic, what up? Crispy was good, Crispy.
Yeah.
Greg Olson walks so Dalton Schultz could run. Yes, that was another thing I heard as well. Reek apparently is getting sued for breaking some chick's leg at some kind of pickup game. Apparently, I think they were trying to show something, and like she was playing offensive line, and then he was playing offensive line, and they were going against each other, and she like made him fall or something like that, and then they switched places, and he like went really hard, and she wound up breaking her fucking leg or some shit like that. So
Wha-
it's a, it's a, I don't know, I don't know, I don't
I
know.
will say this.
Should get some bread though.
I think because there's so much access to internet and cell phones and all, like if this would have happened 40 years ago, nobody would have heard about it for the most part. But I think this is just a product of the time that we live in. We're gonna hear about every little thing. We're gonna hear about, the Cam Newton shit. We're gonna hear about the Tyreek Hill shit. We're gonna hear about all this shit. I don't think it has any bearing because remember Tyreek Hill was involved in something about a year ago in the offseason and nothing ever came of it or whatever the case may be. So we're going to hear about every little thing. And until the NFL actually, steps in and, makes an announcement on anything, I'm not going to look into it that much.
Yeah. Sorry. What else is going on? Rashad White, right? Todd Bowles. I definitely like to have another back in here to take some of the weight off of him, which is, when we talked about doing the running back rankings, we did talk about Rashad White. We talked about how he wasn't great in between the tackles, and that he might get another year of this full workload work. So it'd be interesting to see if they bring somebody in like that's really valuable, or they just bring somebody in to just take a little bit of work off. But I thought that was interesting coming out.
I think Rashad White has a pretty safe floor just because
I
he's a
think so,
really
too.
good receiving back. What we talked about when we broke down the rankings, those really, really good receiving backs, right? The Austin Ecklers, those type of guys, their ceiling is always going to remain pretty high because even though you're going to get 5 to 800 yards rushing, you're going to get another 5 to 800 yards receiving plus the reception. So that doesn't concern me as much as it would say like a Kenneth Walker with a Sharps or something like that. You know what I mean? Like that type of situation. So this doesn't bother me that much. And to be honest with you, that's the way of the NFL. We talked about it. There's only 4 or 5 kind of 3-down workhorse backs anyway. And that doesn't even include Nick Chubb coming off the major injury. So, and some of these guys are getting older, right? Derrick Henry's getting older. Saquon Barkley's getting a little bit older, right? And all these guys are free. Josh Jacobs, not that old, but a lot of wear and tear, and consequently, all those guys are free agents.
And then going back to Cheetah, I also saw him on a podcast talking about that he wants to box Jake Paul. He said he grew up boxing. He wants to fight Jake Paul.
Cheetah's a different dude.
And then in other news, Jonnu Smith was released.
Yeah, I peeked that. So does that mean it's Kyle Pitts season?
Oh, is that what that means? It's been Kyle Pitts season.
Is that what that means? I was trying to read between the leaves or read between the lines.
For sure. And then I think O'Connell had some good things to say about Ty Chandler, so it'll be interesting what we do going into next year at the running back position, let alone the damn QB position. I mean, they say we want Kirk. Kirk said he'll take a discount, but Kirk wants guaranteed money because you know how him and his agent be milking motherfuckers,
raping cats.
And Vikings 10. Are like, nah, we ain't giving guaranteed.
Not after that injury.
And so I think that's where we're at right now.
Yeah, I saw, and what's interesting about that is that there are going to be some available quarterbacks. Like Justin Fields is available, whether you want to think about it or not. Russell Wilson is available, right? The draft is upcoming, obviously, so it'll be really interesting to see because there are suitors for Kirk Cousins. Atlanta, all the teams we talked about. I don't think he'll go to Pittsburgh, but Atlanta is really interesting. They play in a dome, very winnable division. So. I think pretty much if Kirk Cousins gets a 2-year, $90 million fully guaranteed contract from Atlanta, that's where he's going.
Could be. I mean, that's just with the Vikings. It's just like, all right, then we got to get a new quarterback in here. He's got to learn the whole new system. I mean,
with a kind of veteran win now type of offense,
like and Kirk was balling last year. Like
he was.
He
definitely was.
Diaz says down there, Pitts ain't a tight end. That's true too. I mean, he played mostly in the slot. Like he pretty much is kind of a receiver for sure. I think that's all the kind of. Is there any other latest news?
Yeah, essentially none of those big name running backs are getting the franchise tag. Like Josh Jacobs is a free agent. Tony Pollard's a free agent. Derrick Henry's a free agent. Saquon Barkley is a free agent. Like the running back class, if you go by name, like production, you can argue some of those guys were, had down years, their situations were a little kind of up in the air, etc. But like those four guys, and that doesn't even, there's other guys out there. Obviously, DeAndre Swift, we talked about heading into free agency. So that running back class is going to be very interesting to see where the, musical chairs ends up.
Yes, it will. Yes, it will. I mean, is Saquon going back or not? I mean, now they're saying he might go back. I don't know, man. I don't know. I like Saquon as a good buy low, though, at the moment. Not many people, nobody wants him. Nobody wants any running backs nowadays. Typically, that's how we roll.
NFL feels the same way.
Word. My bad. I was trying to change the layout. All right, boom. Let's start. We'll start talking about some of these guys. All right, boom. So let's talk about the first guy, which is Justin Fields. Let's talk about the quarterback because that's like the biggest thing right now, especially with the draft coming up. What are the Bears going to do? We just saw polls at a press conference, kind of talking about, oh, we're going to do what's best for the team. Like he didn't like have Fields' back. Like he did not commit to Fields. So it just seems like they're going to most likely pick at that pick and then wind up trading Justin Fields. So where does Justin Fields go? They're saying they've got offers from Vegas and Atlanta. So two good spots for Justin Fields to go in. Right now in dynasty drafts, he is still going. I see him continuously going in the second round. So like he's not really being devalued right now. I think people are wanting something to happen. Especially if he goes to Atlanta, that's a great situation, obviously. So obviously his stock is up at that point, but he's always been a great fantasy player. He's never been a great winner, at least in the NFL. Was that because of the organization, the position that he was put in, everything that was around him? Possibly, but there's a lot of turnovers, right? A lot of interceptions, fumbles, times where he had chances to win games and he didn't. And again, you could blame it on the stuff that is around him, but at some point, especially right now where he's got basically 1 year to prove himself, because if he gets hurt or he doesn't play well, that's pretty much going to be it for him. I would guess, at least for next year, but he's got to win. So what are we thinking? Buying, selling, holding right now? I mean, I'm okay with buying if you can get him at the right price. I don't think I would sell him. So I'm in the hold or buy situation, depending on how much he's going to cost you. So I'll absolutely take a Justin Fields if I can get him for like a late first. Maybe I have to throw a little something on top of it, but it's got to be a late first.
So just a couple of quick things I'm reading up on it. Obviously the GM Ryan Poles said he doesn't think it would be right not to trade Justin Fields before free agency begins. Free agency begins on March 13th, people. That is 2 weeks and some change away. So it looks like something's going to get done in the next 2.5 weeks. They're going to take Caleb Williams. And don't forget, the Bears still have the 9 pick. I think we forget about that in terms of like their plan and what they want to do. So, and it makes sense for the Bears to do that because then they could reset the quarterback clock, right? Mm-hmm. They can draft the receiver at 9, maybe even move up from 9 if they really wanted to get, Odunze or, somebody like that. So the Bears really, I think, would be smart to get something for Justin Fields. I think the fact that he's still fairly young and has a fairly high ceiling, and I know we talk about a high ceiling in fantasy versus a high ceiling NFL wise, and they are correlated because as you said, if Justin Fields doesn't play well this year, or at least play, up to what we think his potential should be going into year, what now, 4?
Mm-hmm.
Like, at that point in previous episodes, we basically said, like, teams aren't waiting around 2 and 3 years for guys to pop off. And this is Justin Fields' 4th year he's going into. So he's really got to show some growth. He's got to show some maturity. He's got to show some poise in being able to win games and lead teams. So I do think another quick tidbit I just want to throw in there as I was looking at Justin Fields' breakdown was another team that isn't talked that you didn't mention was Pittsburgh, which I think would
Yeah.
be interesting.
I think they're I don't know necessarily if they ruled that out, but I heard that was like the 2 teams that they actually have offers from are Vegas
Gotcha.
and the Falcons actually right now, apparently.
Gotcha.
So yeah.
But yeah, man, like we know the rushing upside is there. And I said this a year ago, because if you remember about a year ago, like there was a lot of hype on Justin Fields, right? They got DJ Moore, Cole Kmet was still around. Their
Mhm.
running back situation was pretty solid, not great, but solid enough. And Justin Fields stock, once they traded for DJ Moore, really kind of went up in my estimation. A lot of people got let down for whatever reason. And DJ Moore was really good. Cole Kmet was pretty good, but Justin Fields was just right. They didn't win a ton early in the season,
They got hurt
and he got hurt once again. Right,
again.
he missed a month. He missed a month. So that's going to lead to a lot of questions. But as we said, the ceiling is there, man. He had a game against Washington in week 5. Now I know Washington was absolutely terrible, but he had 40 points the week before that against Denver when Denver wasn't great, another 38 points. But he's capable of those really solid games because the rushing upside is certainly there. So I just think that Justin Fields really, even if he has a QB like 12 finish, but the team that he goes to goes 10-7 and makes the playoffs, I think that's a better look for him, especially
Mhm.
long term in terms of
Sure.
stability, all that stuff. So I think that the two definitely correlate in terms of how you really feel. I've never been a big Justin Fields fan, and it's not just because I dislike the Chicago Bears. It's just because I haven't seen the progression as a passer that you see with other guys, right? Like
Mhm.
you saw a progression from, and this is a bad example, but a Patrick Mahomes, but even a better comp is Josh Allen, right? By Josh Allen's 4th year, we were kind of like, yeah, right? They got Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen took off, right? And I don't know if DJ Moore is as good as Stephon Diggs. He's probably not, but still DJ Moore being there should have been the takeoff year for Justin Fields that we all expected, and it didn't happen. So now people really have questions. Then it's like, damn, the Chicago Bears are going to move on from Justin Fields. Now if he goes to Atlanta, I like that. If he goes to Vegas, not crazy about it, but I think Atlanta is the best fit in terms of pieces around him, solid defense. Atlanta has a decent O-line as well. Obviously, you got Bijan, all the weapons that we know are there. And they got a new head coach, which I love probably more
Yeah.
than all of those other parts. But yeah, man, this is a really, really big kind of make or break year for Justin Fields, wherever he goes.
Yeah. I was actually listening to the Bills coach earlier basically saying, with Josh Allen, he was like, I took the chance, and I knew that if it didn't work out, I wasn't going to be here anyway. So I went and got my
Balls
guy.
to the
I
walls.
mean, and
Balls
I
to the
think that's the
walls.
main thing with the Bears is like they haven't been winning. Like there's all these questions. So if there's questions, then you don't believe in them. That's it. You just don't believe in them. So
Yeah.
I think the better thing to do would be to just move on. Now, the smart thing to do, and like all us fans want, is okay, keep Fields, trade back, build more on the team. But these guys, they don't want to do that now.
It's
Justin
not
Fields
realistic.
isn't the guy that they want, so they're going to draft another quarterback, and they're going to either live or die by that guy.
I'll tell you
So,
this right now, even with Justin Fields missing the 4 games, if they would have went 9-8 and made the playoffs as a 7 seed and Justin Fields had the same exact season, maybe a little bit better productivity, he'd still be their quarterback. They trade out a number 1, get a haul, and do all that. If they made the playoffs
mhm,
this year, this would be a totally different conversation. And also, too, you got to factor in that the 5th year extension is going to kick in and they're going to have to pay this guy. So it makes sense on all fronts for the Bears to trade Justin Fields, get what you can from him, draft Caleb, you reset the quarterback clock, you still had DJ Moore, and then you still have the 109.
Yep. Exactly. So you can get another receiver if you want.
Boom.
Yeah,
Exactly.
we like DJ Moore.
Oh, yeah. And DJ Moore was fantastic this year. So, but I don't think he's Stephon Diggs. But the point I was making there
No, it's
was,
not
Manny,
Stephon.
was that they actually, like, the Chicago Bears went out and got him. DJ Moore is a wide receiver 1. Like, I think he proved that this year, where he can go out there and dominate games, right? A la Stephon Diggs when he first got to Buffalo and he elevated Josh Allen's play. So I think that's the perfect comp where you could look at, by year 3, Josh Allen was the dude. Right. And we're still having questions about Justin Fields. Now, it just so happens that the Bears have the number 1 pick, so it makes this decision a little bit easier. Like, if the Bears had pick 14, I don't think this would be as much of a conversation.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. So what are you doing? Are you buying, you selling, you holding on Justin Fields?
I mean, obviously, everything depends on what else is on your roster. I'm sure if you have Justin Fields, he's probably your QB2 at this point, just based on, probably where you drafted, etc. Maybe you have Joe Burrow, Justin Fields, and maybe I don't know, a Kirk Cousins or something like that, or a Russell Wilson on your team. I'm going to see what I can get. I'm never not going to see what I can get, just because I'm not sure about his long-term prospects. We've seen Baker Mayfield kind of bounce around, right? As a top number 1 overall draft pick, bounce around. He found a really nice home in Tampa Bay this year, but Baker Mayfield's in like year 7 or 8 or something like that. So, and he finally was able to be as productive as he was. Like, do I want to sit around till year 7 or 8 before I get some return on my investment? No, thank you. So I think Justin Fields has a tremendously high ceiling, but there's just way too much um, uncertainty with him that I wasn't a fan to begin with. So yeah, I'd look to sell if I got a solid enough package. Maybe I could move up in a draft. I could package Justin Fields with something else and maybe upgrade to a little more of a stable quarterback situation. So
Yeah, I mean, he's right around guys like Purdy,
I'd
T-Law,
rather have Purdy. T-Law. I mean, T-Law is, interesting,
Dak.
but
I mean, he's like a mid to late first is basically what they have him here in keep trade cut. He is a quarterback, 15?
sounds about
Which
right.
is
He's
where it
got a
kind
higher
of been.
ceiling.
He's been like 13, 14, 15 pretty much. So, does a change of scenery, implode him to, to play really well. I think it's just a sour taste right now with the Bears. I mean, there's questions. They're not winning, they're losing. So it just makes it that much easier to say, you know what, let's just clear out this
And
situation.
they have the number 1 pick.
And Pohl said like he wants to do right by Justin Fields also by that, I guess trading him, giving a team an opportunity. So, like you said, that deadline or, once free agency opens, whatever. Yeah, free agency, trade deadline, all that stuff opens. I mean,
Yeah,
that's possible.
it's just like Justin Fields has played 12 games his rookie year, 15 games in 2022, and 13 games last year. His style of play is also a concern and something that we haven't really touched on in this particular segment. So that's also something as well where he's got to he's got to stay healthy, right? He's got to protect himself. He's got to go into the Lamar Jackson 2023 bag and say, listen, even though I have a really high rushing ceiling, I have to be better as a passer. And I have to be on the field for 16, 17 games. Like, it's that simple. So, he finished QB 18 this year, and based on his ADP, that's not what you were looking for out of Justin Fields this year, is QB 18.
No, but I mean, yeah, like I think if he does go to Atlanta, where you're talking about, where you have, the Bijan, you have Pitts, you have Leonard, you've got guys that you can get the ball to. It's not all on Fields's kind of shoulders as much. Where now he's got weapons to kind of do some damage. I mean, you had DJ Moore there on the Bears. That's about it. I mean, not really a great run game. You've got no other wide receivers there. Like, you've got Komet, but I mean, he's a nice little TD machine, but they're not using him for, a ton of targets. So, what
Yeah.
do you really have? O-line is trash. I mean, what are you gonna do? It's better for him to even move on at this point, especially when like people already have that sour taste or there's questions.
Mhm.
Like you don't even want to be there at that point. So I think he knows he's gonna be out the door. It's just a matter of, where's he gonna go? What are they gonna get from him?
Yeah. I
So
so just to kind of, put a cap on it, what team do you see him ended up getting traded to?
as far as what?
Where do you see Justin Fields landing via trade?
Well, Atlanta has said that they're going to go after somebody, whether that's moving up in the draft to grab one of those quarterbacks. I know they're very heavily interested in Jaden Daniels, or do they go out and get, a Fields or a Cousins? So I think they have a young team. They want to go get maybe a young guy to kind of grow with them. I don't know.
Well,
I don't know. I think it's
so
really going to depend on the cost.
if Atlanta wants to go up, Atlanta's at the 8th spot. So that 8th pick is going to have to be in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's going to have to be probably the 8 and maybe first and a fourth, first and a third,
So,
maybe.
and I think this is the other thing, like with the Bears too, is like it just wasn't optimal for a guy like Fields. Like that wasn't his strengths. Like they weren't playing to his strengths. Like, in Atlanta, at least you can have the run game. You've got a good defense, right? So it helps him a little bit more. And a guy like Caleb who makes plays off, when things are off and kind of creates on his own, like that could be a little bit of a better fit for Chicago at the moment, especially with that broken ass down O-line, which I think
Yeah.
somebody said something in the comments about. So I think all in all, it's just a better all around to just go to somebody else. And again, it's not like we don't like Fields, but listen, he's got 1 year. Everything's on the line pretty much right now. So let's
How would
see
you
where he
feel?
goes.
Would you feel differently if Fields ended up in Vegas about his
I mean, it's
stock?
still it wouldn't be as great as Atlanta, but you still got guys that can play. You got Jacoby Myers, you got Devontae Adams. Like, I mean, you still got some weapons, and you've got a team that wants you, and that is putting their trust in you. And you got a guy like Devontae Adams on your squad who will go to bat for you. So,
Yeah.
well,
I just
I shouldn't say that because his boy Derek Carr got his ass tossed, and Devontae couldn't do shit about it. So.
And also too, another thing we have to factor in is the team that trades for Justin Fields, right? They're gonna have some big decisions coming up. That 5th-year option, as well
Mhm.
as the long-term extension. So that's another factor, another layer that we're talking about when with the Justin Fields thing. But it looks like he's going to be traded in the next couple of weeks. Just makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah, for sure. What do you guys think about Justin Fields? Y'all buying, selling, holding? What y'all doing?
Sell that bitch.
If they picked up Cousins without an O-line, nothing changes. Also need to improve their run game. Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. For sure. But that's the thing. They didn't have those necessary weapons to kind of open those things up for Fields. So Kev, what up, Kev? What's good,
Oh
Kev?
man.
He said Chicago going to keep him. They could. It's possible, but I think at this point that there is, if the question that there is even a question kind of is really what's going on. Like if they wanted to really keep him, like I think polls would have just came out and said, listen, Justin Fields is our guy. We've seen him improve the last 3 years. And, we're going into next season with him as our guy. We're just deciding what we're going to do, with this number 1 pick. Like I think that would be the case if they really felt confident and they were really going to actually keep him.
Yeah, a lot of people, and I think this is kind of the post hype now because, like I said, a year ago, everybody was on the Justin Fields train after they traded for DJ Moore. The Bears are loading up. The Bears this, the Bears that. This is not even me Packer guy speaking, this is, I didn't see the progression, right? I saw way too much inconsistency. And I think something you said interesting, or something you said earlier was interesting, was the turnovers, right? Like, you have to get better at protecting the football. And it's something that he still struggles with 3 full years in. That's a problem. So, and you could find yourself out of the league really quickly or relegated to a backup role if you keep turning it over.
Yep. Derek said he's buying. Chaotic says she's buying. Someone offered me the 201 for Fields and Superflex and instantly declined. Yeah, I'm not giving. I wouldn't give
I
him
think
up
you
for
could get
201.
more. I definitely think
Sure.
you could get more for him. And that's kind of why I would be on the selling end, is because I think I could get a really, really good haul. Now, if he goes to Atlanta, obviously his stock is going to go up even higher because you see the weapons, etc., like you mentioned before. But you know, I guess I would be in the hold situation, hold ready to sell. I guess that's the best way to put
Gotcha.
it.
That makes sense. Crispy said he's for sale. Jonathan's holding. It's a good idea to hold because you can wait until that
Yeah,
move. You can wait until the move happens. Like, well, if he does go to
I
Atlanta,
agree.
boom, that's the window, right?
Yep.
Because you could argue like the time to buy him, maybe it isn't now. Like it was during the season when his value was so low and we had all these questions earlier. Because now as we're getting closer, like people start coming back to light. Like, oh, guys were injured. Now people care about them when they didn't before. People like all the young guys now. Nobody likes the older veterans. Like this is the season that we're in. So
For sure.
Huss in the building. What up, Huss?
Yes, sir.
Holding for his price to increase again. Exactly. If you want to, we always talk about playing the market. It's not always just about the player. Put these guys in tiers. Who's in the top of the tier? Who's in the bottom of the tier? Move throughout the tier, right? Pick up assets. Move up in the tier, move down in the tier, and do it at the right times. This is why I don't. Somebody asked me about like a dynasty guide or some kind of value book or something like that, and I'm like, you can't do it. Like the values change so much. Like I can give you a little tier, a tier thing. I could put a little something together, but people get so caught up with like, all right, who's your wide receiver? Fuck 9, 10, 11. Like, and we didn't even do our wide receiver rankings, which we're gonna do next week. I just didn't get a chance to get all the stuff together to make the tier thing. But like wide receiver 9 to like 26 is like one big tier. Like literally, it's one huge tier. So you can move up and down and take advantage in certain times. We always talk about that, playing the market, going, doing things at the right time.
I would totally agree. And I think what you said was really, really key there was values change not only from season to season, week to week, values
Especially
change,
now,
right?
especially now, most recently, where so many redraft players are now starting to play Dynasty, and like everything has changed. Like it's just week to week. You don't perform, that's it. You're fucking moving down the rankings. Like,
Yep. That's it.
But yeah, I mean, that kind of brings us into our next guy, which is T. Higgins, right? He's a guy that's ranked, I think, 20. He's keep trade cut wide receiver 25 at the moment. He was as high as like wide receiver like 11, 12, I believe, at some point. And people put him down there, number one, because Joe Burrow got hurt. Number two, because he keeps getting hurt and he's finishing as a wide receiver too. But I think that when you have that number one wide receiver across from you, people automatically tend to think there can't be another wide receiver, another great wide receiver that puts up numbers. And that's just not the case. We've seen that time and time over again from year to year. And you can do that most recently with like an AJ Brown and Devonta Smith, where they don't even throw the ball. They didn't even throw the ball as much as some other teams, right? But I wrote down a couple of things as I was like being reminded of like Antonio Brown and Juju, right? We talked about Devonta and AJ, Waddle and Tyreek Hill, Godwin and Mike Evans, Thielen and Diggs. I mean, Jordy Nelson and Devontae, DK and Lockett. I mean, you can go back to Torrey Holt, Isaac Bruce days. Like, you can have two fantasy wide receiver ones on the same
Marvin
team.
Harrison, Reggie Wayne.
Like there you go. Boom. So that can happen, right? So I think that a lot of people automatically blow that off to where like there can't be another, especially if you look about all those kind of situations, think about who the quarterback was for most of those guys. They all had great quarterbacks. Like we're talking about Joe Burrow, who can throw for over 40 touchdowns, 5,000 yards this season, if he's healthy, if Jamar Chase is healthy, if T. Higgins is healthy. Now, obviously, all the stars have to align, and they haven't all aligned yet for them. Could this be the year that happens? Right? We know what these guys are capable of. We could see a 1,700 yard, 15 tutty season from Jamar Chase coming up. Like,
yep.
So go ahead. My bad.
I think I see you really jacked up on this one. So I was kind
of because people piss me off with that. Like there can't be two wide receiver ones.
I will say this. I totally agree because there's facts to back it up, right? There's hard facts to back it up, where you can see that over the course of throughout the NFL. And also too, another really quick point was we're becoming such a passing league now where it's even more of a reason to support the argument that we're going to be making here. But I will say the one kind of devil's advocate thing for T. Higgins is it's gonna limit his upside at some point. Like that's a factor here because Jamar Chase is there. Now they're most likely going to lose Tyler Boyd, right? So maybe T. Higgins kind of absorbs some of that Tyler Boyd trust from a Joe Burrow, and that just vaults T. Higgins into that kind of high end wide receiver too, because he's had finishes of 30 his rookie year, 22 his second year, 17 his third year. Obviously took the hit last year because of the injury and, the lingering injuries, but you could see he was on a trajectory to move into that low end wide receiver one type, situation. And then obviously Joe Burrow injured as well. So you could see all that kind of come into fruition. But I do think just from, like I said, a devil's advocate standpoint, having Jamar Chase definitely limits his upside. But
for sure,
would I rather have T. Higgins as a number 2 in a Joe Burrow led offense or some other guy? You know what I mean? Like that's how you have to look at it. So it's, would you rather have T. Higgins or DJ Moore heading into next season?
After what DJ Moore just did, it's like, damn. And now you got like maybe a Caleb coming in. Like,
would you rather have T. Higgins
want DJ Moore almost just because of like he's a safer guy?
Yeah, safer floor. Would you rather have T. Higgins or Michael Pittman?
Probably Pittman. But that's really that's close. That's a real close one for me.
But that's kind of like what we're talking about is Michael Pittman is the clear number 1, T. Higgins is the clear number 2, and that's the conversation that T. Higgins finds himself in because he's a fantastic receiver and he plays with Joe Burrow. And also too, Jamar Chase opens things up for T. Higgins, right? T. Higgins doesn't see all the number 1 coverage rolled his way on a week in, week out basis. So it's and so they franchise tag T. Higgins. He's officially on the franchise tag. And what does his future hold? Because they're gonna have to pay Jamar Chase at some point.
Yeah, so he'll have to go somewhere else. Now, I mean, for me, I have T. Higgins pretty high compared to like keep trade cut at like wide receiver 25. I have him around like 15ish or so. But I like T. Higgins. I think if he does go to another team, he is a guy that can possibly give you that wide receiver 1 production. And even if he does stay with Joe Burrow, like I'm okay with that back end wide receiver 1 numbers, the high end wide receiver 2 numbers. Now, obviously, he's got to stay healthy. That obviously is a concern, and he hasn't been able to do that. And he hasn't missed like a ton of games, but he's been banged up a bunch where he'll play. He comes out in the first quarter or after a couple plays. There's a bunch of games that he's done that. So it's tough. Now, if he goes somewhere else, then he doesn't have that capped upside kind of like you were talking about, depending where he goes. But I would guess if he went somewhere else, it would be for him to be the guy. So I do like T. Higgins. I think that depending on your league, there's like a mixed bag of people, mixed reactions for T. Higgins, right? There's people that like me, I'm saying I want to buy right now. If most of the community is looking at him as wide receiver 25, like for me, that's a buy, right? Can I go from like I'll go down from many of these guys: Jalen Waddle, Brandon Ayuk, Drake London, Nico Collins, Devonta Smith, DJ Moore. Give me a piece and T Higgins, and you can gladly have any of those guys. It's a big tier for me, right? That's moving up and down the tier, right? Can I get a second? Can I get a late first on top of it? Can I get something that I need? You know, how much can I push? Because there are people, like I said, that like T Higgins. There's people that don't. Other people like me do like T Higgins, and we're like, all right, I'm not gonna trade him away for marbles. So if I'm gonna trade him away, my price is gonna be relatively high. So I think that the price you have to pay for T Higgins is going to differ in leagues with GMs. So I think it's very hard to say, you know, what to do. But if somebody's high on T Higgins, I'm absolutely fine selling him. Give me a piece and somebody in that same tier that I have him in. And I would love to buy him if you're going to value him in that, you know, in that 25-ish range tier. So I think right now he's pretty much a hold if you have him, but if the right situation comes across, I'm okay going either way.
I'm buying for two reasons. The first one you already
Oh.
mentioned is because the value, if he's at wide receiver 25 value, and I can get him at wide receiver, if I'm getting him at wide receiver 25 value and he's producing at wide receiver, say 17, 15,
Mm-hmm.
12, right? Somewhere in that range, 12 to 15, 12 to 17, automatically it's a bargain. The second reason I'm buying T Higgins, this is a contract year, right? He's franchise tagged. He's going to be
Mm-hmm.
there. I don't, I
Yep.
don't, I can foresee him going out there and going 1,200 yards, closing in on 10 touchdowns, right?
Mm-hmm.
He does have a cap to me because, like I said before, he does play with Jamar Chase. But the two reasons I'm buying him, number one, the value is probably going to be there because of the injury. And then obviously Joe Burrow getting injured as well, just absolutely cratered his season. And I think he's going to have a big year because he's in a contract year. He has something to prove, right? He's got the
Mm-hmm.
franchise tag on him essentially. So I think there's a couple of reasons to buy him. So yeah, I'm a big fan of T Higgins. I would say this though, I'm cautiously optimistic because I think he's going into year 5 now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we haven't had that explosion per se. He's been really consistent over the first 3 years, and then we know what happened last year. So I'm cautiously optimistic. The injury concern and his physical play does concern me a bit, kind of a la Mike Evans. But you've seen what Mike Evans has been able to do,
Mm-hmm.
over the course of the last decade. So he kind of has a little bit of that Mike Evans in him, where he isn't crazy explosive, but he's just a big physical guy that makes plays, right? And I love when I see him out there. He can dominate games, right? He has
Oh
wide
yeah.
receiver
Yeah, we
one
saw that.
upside.
We saw that.
He has wide receiver one upside on a week to week basis. And he gave you a couple of those flashes this season, right? Week 2 against Baltimore, 8
Mm-hmm.
catches, 89 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's
And
big. Really quick, week 16, 5 catches, 140 yards and a touchdown. So he has that. He has that in him for sure, but it's been a bit of a
mhm.
roller coaster.
I mean, look, wait, if you pull up the top 15 wide receivers for any given year, the majority of them have a great quarterback at the helm. And we've mentioned that a little bit earlier. The majority of them have a great quarterback. So he's a higher percentage guy that you can take a bet on. I think for me and like our community, like we love T Higgins. We want to buy T Higgins, but other communities are not so high on him. Like I've been able to buy him. I think I got him in Diaz is out there. I got him in this in Huss's league, this one that we just finished up. I wound up trading I traded Jordan Love and Demario Douglas for Dak Prescott and T Higgins, like in the startup. I mean, Dak went one pick after I took Jordan Love. So I basically just like moved one pick back and was able to get T Higgins on top of it. So I'll take it. But in other leagues, it's not easy to get T Higgins. Like people really like him. So I think it's
So
tough. But for the main part of it, like yes, I'm absolutely buying or trying to buy. I'm inquiring to buy, and then that will determine whether I'm going to buy him or not. Obviously, depending on the price of that GM.
So just really quick to put a cap on it. So it says Bengals director of player personnel, blah, 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 said really simple. He's a good player. We want to keep him. We have the resources to do that. he added that they're a better team with him. The Bengals will run it back with Higgins, Chase, and Burrow. So,
No, for sure. They know if they could afford
it,
it, then you fucking bring him back. I mean,
it's gonna be tough to pay all three of those guys. Burrow's already been
it
paid.
is,
Chase is coming
bro.
up pretty soon, and it's gonna be tough, man.
That's why they're about to go crazy this year, bro. It's happening. They just got to stay healthy.
That would be good for Higgins managers for sure.
All right, let's see what comments we got in here. Higgins over Moore. Should have kept Fields and got Marvin Harrison Jr. Yeah.
I think they want to reset the quarterback clock. That's why.
And that's the thing. Like, and you still got like two other great wide receivers that you can still get with that next pick too. So you don't have to waste that first pick on, on Marvin.
And if they get the 8 from Atlanta, just hypothetically, they have the 8-9. You tell me they can't package something of that if they really want to move up from 8 or 9, or even just take somebody at 8 or 9.
Yeah. I mean, for me, Huss, I got T like right around like wide receiver 15-ish, give or take, like in that range. But like I said, like I'm okay with, moving up and down from that whole tier, like if you could. So Michael Pittman, 30% target share. Higgins still going to be the number 2. Yeah, for sure. Those are
and that's the argument I was making versus, with Higgins kind of having that cap, where you're always going to feel like, damn, he could get to that next gear, but Jamar Chase is over there.
No, yeah, I don't think that's a long-term deal either. That's going to be tough to keep all those guys. So
no, they're going to pay Jamar Chase at some point, and they already can't afford Tyler Boyd. Like,
yeah.
Are they going to be able to afford T. Higgins for what he's probably going to be?
Jamie said Higgins or JSN.
Ooh. I'm going to say Higgins just because I think Higgins has a little bit of a higher ceiling, and I know what that quarterback situation is. Seattle's kind of in flux at quarterback right now. So I'd lean Higgins here, but I could see why somebody could make an argument for JSN. But I'm going to go Higgins here. And also, he's a big dude. Like, he's a red zone threat.
That's true. I kind of have him back to back, but if I have to pick one over the other, I'll probably go JSN just because, number one, the hype. Like, we've seen Higgins, like you said, for a few years now. So JSN comes out, has a few good games. I mean, the value that he's going to bring is going to be insane. So I would say for me, JSN by like a hair. And I have JSN ranked relatively very high considering, most other people out there. So PB Dubs, what up?
PB, I see you changed. What's that? What's that little icon? That's a new icon.
Yeah, he changed it.
He got rid of the Fields icon. PB, how you feeling about Fields, bro?
I can't
even see what that is.
I can't tell. I think it's like a character. I see like some luscious locks.
That's funny. That is funny.
Oh man.
There was an interesting comment in here from 420 Network about the cap.
From Huss. Yeah, about the cap. Yeah, it is gonna go up, but I mean, do you just go with the crazy offense? I mean, you won't be able to spend as much obviously elsewhere. Even with the cap going up, I think it's still gonna be tough. Do they try and do it? Maybe. Do they like restructure Burrow's contract after? Like, maybe. I mean, possibly. And even if he does stay there, like, I'm totally fine with that. I'm okay with like back end wide receiver 1, high end wide receiver 2, like possible production. Like, I'm totally fine with that. It's just a matter of staying healthy. And do you trust him to stay healthy or not? I have a lot of T. Higgins shares, probably too much. I probably should try and unload right now a few and see what I can get or see how I can move, because I was able to get them for relatively cheap a lot of places. Ghost Monkey in the building. What up, Ghost Monkey? PB Dub said we still love Fields. Yeah, I don't know what that is, PB Dub. To me, it looks like some guy with luscious locks holding like a slushy or some shit. I can't really make it out, but
I can't see it either. I was looking to really see what it was, but I have no idea what that thing is.
Yeah, I'll hit you after Bogey. The character, Bartholomew Kuma. Okay.
I have no clue what that is.
No clue either, but old GMs are manipulating the cap like now before. Oh, for sure. I mean, it's the way this game is played now. Yeah, I always say like there's no such thing as cap. Like somehow they always fucking figure it out or restructure this, restructure that, and they figure some shit out.
Let's put it this way. If San Francisco could figure out how to get all those guys, now I know obviously Brock Purdy is making peanuts, but which matters, you know, in the grand scheme of things. But if San Francisco could figure it out, I think the Bengals got a good shot.
Bro, what is it? I have to know what it is. Like, what is in his hand? Like, what is that in his hand? Is that in his hand? Like, what is it?
Just looks like some ice. It looks like melted ice cream or something.
Melted ice cream. Jesus. Oh man. All right, so that's what's going on with T. Let's talk about Josh Jacobs. We'll save Schultz for last. But yeah, let's talk about Josh Jacobs. I'll let you take Josh Jacobs first. I know you're a Jacobs guy.
Yeah, man, I've been a big fan of Josh Jacobs. Obviously, they didn't franchise tag him. They did last year. I think that Josh Jacobs has been really good. I just think that crazy season a couple of years ago was the ceiling, right? I don't think we're gonna see that again.
We did say that he was a huge trade guy.
But I do think he could still be productive. The guy's still only 26 years old, but he does have 5 years under his belt. That massive workload a couple of years ago, 340 carries, another 64 targets. That's 400 opportunities. Like that's crazy. So I think that manifested itself a little bit last year. And we also talked about, like, you know, with him being on the franchise tag last year, if Vegas had nothing to play for, was he just gonna kick his feet up? And that's kind of exactly what happened, you know, towards the end of the season. He didn't play the last month. Like, that's exactly what we kind of figured was going to happen. But I'm still a big Josh Jacobs fan. I think he's a really tough runner. I think he kind of got his sea legs under him as the season went on, and his yards per carry kind of climbed a little bit as the season went on. But Vegas wasn't very good to begin with, and he's a true 3-down back. That's what I like the most about Josh Jacobs in a league where there's very few of those guys. I think Josh Jacobs is a 3-down back. Now, his efficiency obviously last year took a massive hit. He was at 4.86 in 2022, went down to 3.45 last year. A number of factors obviously contributed to that, but I think Josh Jacobs, if he does leave Vegas, like, he could go to a really good, like a contending team and be fantastic in my estimation as a 3-down kind of workhorse back. Now, he does get banged up, but he usually plays through those injuries, you know. But, you know, as you get a little bit older, sometimes you're not able to, but Josh Jacobs is a hell of a running back. I think it's really hard to say where he ends up just because of all the running backs that I mentioned earlier, with Tony Pollard, Saquon Barkley out there, Austin Eckler out there. Like, the market might be tough for a lot of these guys to play this musical chair situation. Obviously, I think Josh Jacobs is going to land on a team. And if he's smart, he lands on like Josh Jacobs on the Ravens at a decent price. Like, I would feel good about that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think for Jacobs, like, there's a few good spots obviously he can go to, but even if he does stay, like, Antonio Pierce is no dummy. He's given Jacobs to work if he winds up staying. Like, so I do have confidence in Jacobs. Now, you know, are we buying him? Are we selling him? Are we holding him? I mean, I guess you kind of have to hold. I mean, it's going to be
Hold.
hard to sell because people don't want to pay what you're going to want,
Yep.
from. At least that's what I feel. I don't have any Josh Jacobs, but if I had him, I'm not just selling him for cheap. Like you said, he's one of those few workhorse guys that are still left in the league. Is it one more year we have left of him? Is it two more? Who knows? But I'm buying if the price is right. Like, what am I really paying for Josh Jacobs? Man, that's tough because I don't want to spend a first. Like,
No.
I mean, if it's a 111, 112, like maybe if I'm a contending team and like that's all I need, like fine. Like I'll do that. But relatively, it's gotta be like an early second, I would guess. Like that would be kind of the price range that I'd be probably most willing to pay.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with an early second. I just I'm a big fan of Josh Jacobs, and I'm not only saying that
No.
because I had him on my team for, especially with our home dynasty league. He was really, really solid, and then had that breakout year for me, got me to the championship. But I just like his style of running. Like he's a tough dude. Like he fights through injuries. He's pretty much a no nonsense type guy. He almost feels like he belonged in the mid 90s as a running back.
Mm,
Like the toughness and all that stuff. Now he's not overly efficient, but a tough guy. I just like Josh Jacobs for whatever reason.
mhm,
It was just unfortunate to kind of see that team kind of crumble around him last year with everything that happened, quarterback situation, head coach situation, etc. But yeah, if you put Josh Jacobs on Baltimore, man,
mhm. Yeah,
that would
listen,
be
he's a value right now, especially in startups. Like he's going crazy late. Like you can grab him
and
really
that's
late in
that's
drafts. And
another
like I said, if
factor.
you can
Yeah.
get him for a decent enough price, like I'm fine with buying. And I don't like buying running backs. And you're only buying him if you are like a contending kind of top three team. You
One
have all your
piece
kind of
away.
shit
Yep.
together, and you're kind of like that little almost one piece away. Like then
Hmm.
I'm okay with going to get him. Again,
I
it just depends on the price. Like
I
I
want to
really
get
don't
your
want to spend any kind of first.
I want to get your thoughts too, really quickly, because remember we had all of those, all of basically all these running backs, kind of franchise tagged last year.
Mhm.
Barkley, Eckler, Jacobs. Obviously, Derrick Henry wasn't franchise tag, but he's a free agent now as well. Like, do you think there's any coincidence that all of these guys are free agents at the same time? Like, do you think there's anything that it's because I just find it, I'm like, God damn, I look around and I'm like,
I
is it
think
the
that
devaluation of the position
I
altogether?
I think that the NFL has realized that like you don't need to spend up on the running backs to get the production that you need. Like split it up. They've got these now smaller guys that can run routes out of the backfield that are giving you this different kind of dynamic. And then you've
Yeah,
got the bigger bruising back that you can come in that
goal
you can
line.
have
Yeah.
to kind of take the goal line or the first and second down carries. And it's cheaper for the teams as well. It's somewhere that they can save money. They can split that into two cheap contracts, almost or two rookie contracts, fourth round, fifth round picks. We're seeing all these guys getting this playing time now. I mean,
Hmm.
things are just changing. Like, and even though the cap is going up,
They want to allot that to different
and
positions.
yeah, and even still now, it's just different in the case that like there's not Saquons, there's not Bijans, there's not these three down workhorse guys out there anymore like there used to be. Like not
Yeah.
many of these guys can handle this
A
three
dying
down
breed. Yeah.
Saquon work nowadays. Like there's not a lot of running backs that are coming out that are built like that or can handle that, or that the NFL even wants to say, okay, that's how we see you. We're gonna give you that. No, I mean, they don't
Hmm.
want to do that now. They want to split it up. They want to have guys healthy. They want to have guys fresh. So if they
Yep.
can spend cheaper at it, I mean, why would you want to spend money? So they're trying to kind of, I don't want to say reset the market because you can't on guys like that. Like those are the few exceptions, right? Those are the few guys that teams might you probably have to go out. It's right to go and spend for those guys because those guys are giving you that three down workhorse production, and like teams are planning for those guys. Like teams are looking at that on
Hmm.
your offense compared to other guys, or if you split it into two different guys, like you're looking at different things, but they give a different dynamic to your offense. So
Yeah, and I think too, like a lot of these guys that are workhorse backs, like they're pretty much getting older and extinct, right? We talked about Henry. Obviously, Nick Chubb in Cleveland is with the massive injury. So that's just it's really becoming, and to translate it to fantasy, it just makes it even that much harder to put value on these guys, because essentially you're basically going out and getting a bunch of RB2s, like you said, and just figuring everything else out from there. Like, it just makes it that much more complicated, from a fantasy perspective. Is what is their true value? Because I had Josh Jacobs on my home fantasy team in our home league, and he had that massive 2022 season where he was just phenomenal in every single aspect. And I put him on the trade block as soon as the season was over, and nobody really made me an offer. Like, nobody put anything. And now the home league is a little bit different, but in terms of, people who are active, but a guy that finished RB3 and just went, 1,600 yards, obviously we know what he did, but nobody wanted to give up anything for it, because they realized, like, it's not worth it. Right. It's just not worth it for those type of guys. So
No.
That's tough. I'm a big fan of Josh Jacobs. I think he could do really well on a good team, on a good offense. Josh Jacobs to Dallas would be interesting. I know their offensive line is getting a little bit older, but I think Derrick Henry's going to go there. But I like the Baltimore fit. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, I like Texans would be another good spot too.
Houston's interesting. Yep, they have a solid O-line.
So a few good spots, but just running backs in general, like nowadays, just got to do it almost like just year to year. Like, you can't expect like these 3-4 years coming from guys, because again, unless they are the Saquons, the Bijans, the Zeke Elliott's, unless they're those type of guys, like, and we don't see that nowadays. So
yeah, for sure.
It's
just so unfortunate. The days of Adrian Peterson have long passed us.
No, AP. Yep, there's not.
That's done. That's over with.
Not those guys anymore. All right, let's get to some of these questions. Where was I at? Jamie said, what are some trades you guys made lately in some of your leagues? The most recent one was in a startup, and I think DS said something about it here. That was a steal. The dude was so sprung to get love. He was trying to only give me a second at first, and I was like, nah. I was like, this guy. And then he tried to send me some other things, and I was like, all right, he really wants love. I was like, well, if you really want love, then shit, I want T. Like, I got to get T. Here's DS. First,
so really quick on that.
You snipe pop for me. Second, you rape dude for T.
So really quick, we were on Call of Duty the other night, and Steve goes, "Yo, Craig, I had to do it. I had to trade your boy Love. I got him to fuck up out of there."
I said that he didn't even last the draft on my squad.
I was like, all right, you're gonna pay dearly for that, because Love is about to really turn up on your ass.
Shit. I was excited. That was my first share of Love, and I had to let him go quick.
Do what you got to do, bro.
That's it. All right, Mystic. What up, Mystic? 12-team Superflex start 11. Made a trade. Gave Love, Pickens the 110. Love, Pickens, and the 110 for Jamar. Superflex start 11. Okay. So Jamar, Geno, and a second. My other QBs are Lamar, Purdy, and Geno. Wide receivers are Jamar, Devonta, and Ass. I don't know. Have the 101, take Marv.
Okay, that makes it a little bit different. I don't mind that, because you got Jamar Chase and you have the 101. So
he's already got the 101 though. So he's given up. He gave up Love, Pickens, and the 110, and he got Jamar, Geno in a second.
You swing it for the fences, right? You already have Lamar and Purdy.
I know, but I don't like it. It's a start. It's a start 11. I just feel like Geno doesn't even matter in this situation. You're not even playing him. He's your third QB.
I would
and
agree.
The second is like, okay. I mean, but you gave up the 110 level. It's not horrible, but
I don't mind it because you're getting Chase and you could take Marvin Harrison.
Yeah, but I could have just kept Love and then get Marvin Harrison and then maybe use Pickens and the 110 and go get something else, and I may be able to keep that
But
value that I have in
would
Love. Can
you?
I move down from the 101 to like the 102, 103? Like, do I, I don't have to take Marv. Maybe I can gain some other assets on top of that.
I kind of like it in terms of you're getting Jamar though. Like
I know, I
you
know,
locking that in,
I know.
and also too now the wide receivers. He didn't have anything to build around at the wide receiver core besides Devonta Smith. So I'm actually fairly good with that, to be honest with you.
All right, let me rephrase it, I guess. I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. My only other question is like, what else could you have possibly
You mean like
done? Because
split it up and not take the.
it is start 11, so it's a little bit of an extra starter than the typical. I just I just really would want, like, if I've got Love, Lamar, and Purdy.
I'd
Like,
make that. So basically, you gave up Love
that's
and
money.
Pickens for Jamar.
I guess if you want to look at it that way. It's not a
I
bad
mean,
trade at all. I don't hate it at all, but so at the 101, so all right, so we got Chase. So we got Chase, we got Geno, Lamar, Purdy. At the 101, does he take Marv now?
yes, I would. Or shop it around. I would shop around the 101, see what you could get. If you can move down to the 102 and add something on top of that, right? So you walk away with Neighbors plus.
Or the 103? I mean, could still take a quarterback. Could go Caleb still.
That's true. I feel pretty good about Lamar and Purdy,
I
though.
mean,
If
if
I
you
have
got
those.
Lamar and Purdy, you're safe. You got Geno as your QB, like, you're safe. So if somebody really needs a QB, then maybe I just move the 101. Like, can I do the
Right.
102 or the
And get a
103? Like,
haul.
if I
And get
miss
a haul.
Marv, like,
Yeah.
okay, I'll take Neighbors. Like,
Yep.
but you're
Yep.
getting something on top of it. So that's probably what I would do, is just kind of shop it around, see what you can do with it. So now you got
Actually,
Jamar, Devonta, and
and
what the hell's ASS?
ass. Nothing.
Yeah,
Garbage.
I know.
Caca.
Oh, okay. You mean like literal ass? Okay. Well, that's the other thing. Now, if all he's got is Jamar, Devonta, and a bunch of bums on his squad, and he's got to start 11 now. I mean, how valuable is Jamar to you now? You know what I mean?
I still like it as the building block, though. And then you add, like you said, in this situation, because you got Jamar, now maybe you're more enticed to trade the 101 to get the 102 or the 103, take a Neighbors or Odunze, and then get something else on top of it. So at that point, you're kind of, this trade has already happened. So we kind of have to go off that this trade happening and what to do with the
I
101.
know. I'm just everything is just going through my mind of like the different like scenarios, and I'm like, all right, if he's literally mean an ass, I only got Jamar, Devonta, and some trash cans at wide receiver. Like, it's not doing as much as like what I could have got rid of Love for, split them up into a few different pieces or picks or whatever the case is. Like, I just feel like it could have been, we could explore it a little bit more, but being that it is done, all right, we got Jamar, we got Devonta, we got Lamar, Purdy, and like Geno. Like, I don't think you can win if that's all you got.
I mean, you still got that 101 in your back pocket that you can,
That's true.
that's not nothing
That's
in
true.
this scenario.
But yeah, shop around the 101. Maybe you move down a couple spots and pick up some more assets on top of it. Because start 11, you need some starters. I mean, need some starters.
That 101 could get you a good haul if somebody really wants
Philip,
Caleb.
what up, Philip? Need a little advice. Rashid Rice or Jaden Reed?
Ooh. The Packer in me wants to say Jaden Reed, and I think I am going to say Jaden Reed by a hair. And there's really arguments to be made on both sides, so I'm not going to say it's clear cut. I'm going to say Jaden Reed by a hair, just because I think Jaden Reed is a little bit more diverse in what he can do. And then the knock against Jaden Reed is he's in an equal opportunity employment offense where 1 week it could be Dobbs, 1 week it could be Watson, Aaron Jones could be going nuts. The tight ends are, pretty solid there. Dontavian Wicks has emerged as a legitimate threat for opportunities in the passing game. So Jaden Reed is a little bit capped by that, but they do get him involved, in the running game a little bit here and there. He could do some things. So I'm going to go Jaden Reed just because I think he's the more polished guy and he is involved in more than one way as a weapon. So I'll say Jaden Reed slightly, though. I'm big fan of what Rashid Rice did in the second half of the season, though. Big fan of what he was able to do.
I don't hate it. I'll probably go Rashid Rice just because, Christian Watson missed some of last year. Like, that was just off. Like, they do have a few different pass catchers over there. Rashid Rice, obviously, the upside with Patrick Mahomes. Do they bring someone else in? Does that affect Rashid Rice? I know we've talked about that a bunch. But honestly, I just take Rashid Rice just for the value. And then I would just trade him. If you don't want to keep him, you can trade him. The value is pretty high right now. If it's just a matter of Rice or Reed, then that's it. Like, give me Rice, just because in pretty much the community's eyes, they're gonna like Rashid Rice better than Jaden Reed, especially right now. Like, they won a damn Super Bowl. Rashid Rice is the number one wide receiver, technically, if you're not counting Kelsey. People are thinking so. Not necessarily thinking he literally is compared to who they have there, but. Yeah, so for that reason, I'll take Rashid Rice. But I do love Jaden Reed. We've been believers of Jaden Reed since the draft last year, since he was drafted. So,
but there's the thing I'm seeing in the chat is one of the points I did make, where it's just so many guys. Like Jaden Reed in that game against Dallas I don't think he caught a single pass, right? And we think he's potentially the most talented of the guys in that group. So. There's a lot of guys, so I definitely hear that argument, and it's legitimate, and I totally agree with it.
A lot of guys. Yeah, my bad. I'm so behind on the chat, so I can't even see what's coming in at the moment. Where was I at? All right, here we go. Gurley and Zeke messed it all up for the guys. Yeah.
I think Zeke is a good point there, because they paid Zeke and it went to absolute shit for Dallas. So I couldn't agree. Couldn't agree more.
JT, yeah. JT got the contract though, so he's kind of safe.
JT literally had to go out kicking and screaming to get that contract. So that wasn't exactly a smooth transition. We thought JT was out of there, right? Remember when we were talking about at the beginning of last season, JT possibly getting traded? So that wasn't exactly a sure thing. And JT was only, 24, 25, something like that?
Caleb, what up, Caleb? Appreciate you, bro. Appreciate you. 109 and the 202 for Nico Collins. Okay. I'm not mad at it. We've always had Nico over Dell. I know Dell is like, he was up there for a minute when he was going off. Came up on the trade bank. That's a winning trade for me. I feel you. Guy with 102, Def getting Marv. He's set with QB2. Yeah, so tell him, bro, you better come get this 101 or else I'm taking Marv, bro.
I like it.
Bro, leverage. I'm taking Marv unless you come up.
Leverage.
You can't take them. Like, you're not forced to, like, you don't have to take a quarterback, but see if you can try and leverage him and see if you can get a little, see if you can get him something out of him. Or you go to the guy at 103 and try and get the 103.
Plus.
Then you tell the 102 guy, bro, I'm about to get this 103 right now. So, and he's trying to take Marv. So you better come up on something.
Whole bunch of tampering going on. I love it. Tamper the fuck out of that 101.
Bro, you gotta negotiate. That's it. I would tell him that you're negotiating with the guy at 103, even if you're not. Just to say, just to get him thinking like, oh shit, I'm panicking.
It's actually a good point.
Nico gonna eat. Yeah, Nico will be all right. Just traded away Godwin and the 406 for Pitts. Okay, I'm okay with that. Now I got Hawkinson, Joku, and Pitts at tight end. Jeez, I hope that's tight end premium.
That's a lot.
Our receivers are still good. Plus, I'm taking Harrison Jr. 101 over Caleb. Okay. I'm okay with it.
It's a lot of tight ends.
What was that movie like? Because Caleb, what was that movie where? Damn, it's probably like 15-ish years ago. I don't even know when the hell it was. Where the guy was the GM and he has like the 101. And they're supposed to, like, everybody wants him to take this new quarterback that's supposed to be the next big thing that's coming out. And then there's all like these red flags with the guy, like his teammates don't like him. And, he's just
It was a movie?
Yeah, it was a
Based on-
movie with
Based on real life?
yeah, I don't remember.
Was
if
it
it's
Draft
based on real
Day?
life. Was it Costner? Yeah, probably. It was probably Draft
Day.
probably. Yeah, so that kind of almost reminds me a little bit of the situation where, like, there are some red flags. Well, maybe there's more than just some red flags with Caleb, right? I mean, there's a whole bunch of things going on with Caleb. He thinks who he is, talking about, I don't want to go here, I want to go there, talking about he wants a stake in the team. I mean, the fuck?
That's a little spicy.
Stake in the team? What the fuck?
Don't work that way. I
Who
don't think
you
you
are, bro. Shit.
You want to stake in the team, go get you some Packer shares.
JT and Ferguson at tight end. Just the other wide receivers are QJ and Waddle-esque. Yeah, so I mean, listen, you got Chase. Is it, you can still shop him. You don't have to trade him, but if you could split him into like 2 wide receiver 2s in that range and a start 11, maybe that gives you a little bit more, a little bit more value for your squad. So just check it out. Blanco thought ASS was an acronym for something like an advanced hat, always sub savage, ass everything. I did think it was an acronym. I'm like, ass. I'm like, what the fuck is this ASS? Like, am I dumb right now? Have I smoked myself retarded? What the
probably
fuck is ASS?
I could see that. I saw it right away and it was like trash. He's got trash after those 2 guys.
Oh man. There's too much of a gadget player. Yeah, Rice to connect with Holmes.
I can hear it.
Trade for Dell everywhere. Christian Watson will rebound. Yeah, I mean, listen, I got Christian Watson in a startup recently. I think I got him at pretty good value. And he can't stay healthy. Apparently, he went to see like a specialist on like why he keeps getting these injuries and stuff. So
it's the hamstring. That's all it is.
It's a risk for sure with Christian Watson.
But the upside's there, man.
We know that the upside is there.
And really quick, now I think Christian Watson's stock is not gonna, I don't want to say plummet per se, but I think his stock kind of stabilizes. I think it stabilizes a little bit because who his quarterback is going to be, right? Like, I think that helps him a little bit where people will still be willing to take a bit of a risk on him. Not a crazy risk. You're not trading the first, probably mid-second, late second-ish. Type value where people will still kind of see the upside. We saw what Jordan Love was able to do without Christian Watson, for a bunch of games. And we even saw when Christian Watson was in some of these games, what he can do. Another year in the offense, another year, etc. But I'm not banking on it. I'll be honest with you. And another thing is, and we've been talking about it in this chat when somebody asked about Reed versus Rice. There's so many other capable guys on this offense. I think they do need Christian Watson just because he brings a different element than a lot of those other guys. He has that speed, deep threat down the field element that the Packers do need to ultimately get where they want to go. But we rattled off 4 or 5 different guys that are very, very capable, Dobbs, Reed, Wicks, the 2 tight ends. Aaron Jones is coming back. So there's, Christian Watson better get his shit together really quick. I'll tell you that.
Gave Nico for the 105. Okay, yeah, I'll take the 105 for sure. Oh yeah, there goes Bogey. Draft day. Yep.
Draft day. Yeah. I heard that was pretty good. I didn't actually get a chance to see it, but I heard it was
You didn't
really
see
good.
it? What? That movie's
No.
that's a good ass movie, bro.
I think Bagala was telling me about it. Like Kevin Costner was a maniac in that movie. I heard.
Yeah, he was good. That was an awesome movie. Hawkinson gonna miss the first 4 to 6 weeks. Can use Joker or Pitts until he comes back. Yeah.
Okay, that
Pitts
makes
value
sense.
rises, you can sell higher. Okay, yeah, I'm good with that. 'Cause you got him for decently cheap. I mean, you played Godwin and nothing basically. So Jordan Love's about to come back to reality. Now there's actual tape on him now. That could be too. We could see some of that too. We could see, but he does
What's
still have
back
the
to
young wide receivers. So, does he grow with them, or is it something where like they don't have like that real number one dude? Do they need that number one dude? Is this guy just going flinging around to a bunch of different guys?
the thing that I'm most encouraged about is, and I'm more encouraged that his season went the way it did, where he struggled early on and got better as the season went on, as opposed to
Mhm.
the other way around, where he was really good early and then like tailed off late. So that's more encouraging for me. Can he have a mixed bag next year? Sure. But I think another year of continuity, and you can't tell me the way they played throughout the last, the back third of the season, and then even in the playoffs, that didn't build confidence, that there's continuity between Matt LaFleur and Jordan Love and the rest of those receivers out there. Aaron Jones was really good down the stretch. Now, that's also another factor why Jordan Love played really well, down the
Mhm.
stretch, is because Aaron Jones was healthy and out there running for 100 yards. So I wouldn't say he's going to come back to reality. But listen, if you're telling me Jordan Love's going to give me between 28 and 32 touchdowns, 4,000 yards, that sign me up.
Mhm. For sure. All right, let's talk about our last guy here.
Yeah,
Talk
buddy.
about Dalton Schultz. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know the situation, right? Is he coming back? Is he not? We know what that offense can do. We do know that you want a piece of that offense in fantasy if you can grab any kind of piece of that offense. But Schultz, I mean, I just feel like, and I've always felt this way, I just feel like Schultz is a replaceable guy. Like he's a good tight end, but we kind of saw like Brevin Jordan can play a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Do they really have to go out there and spend money on a Dalton Schultz? Now they have a ton of money, so it's not necessarily almost an issue of the money because they could absolutely spend it. They have it. So do they just do that? I mean, I don't know. There are questions there. Obviously, if he stays there, he's going to be vaulted up the rankings, right? But that is the question: does he stay there? So for me, like I'm okay with buying for like cheap. I mean, I don't know. What would you say would be cheap? I mean, a third. I don't even know if I really want to spend a second at this point. Like I'd rather just go get, or I probably have somebody else that's relatively close to to what Dalton Schultz can do. So it's a rough situation with Schultz. I'm not really sure what to do. You almost just have to hold right now, or like I said, if you're buying for relatively cheap. But what are they going to do? I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I'm a hold as well. And I think we had our tight end rankings out not that long ago. So there's so many younger, higher upside type guys that, I think Schultz is a good value in terms of if you have, say, like a George Kittle, where, there might be some injury concern, or if he goes to a team that's on a solid offense. I think Bogey put in here Schultz to the Dolphins. That would be pretty awesome. Dolphins don't really
They don't
use
really.
their tight end. Like, we went through the Gasecki situation. Um, but that would be interesting. So I really do like Dalton Schultz. And he's been virtually in a 12 team league. He's been a tight end one, right? The last 3 years. He finished 3, 12, and 11. That's half PPR. He finished 3, 11, and 10 full PPR. So he's right at the bottom of the tight end one kind of standings.
Mhm.
Now, it doesn't take that much to be a tight end one, obviously, but in this particular offense, could be pretty valuable. Now, obviously, we saw when Schultz was out for a little bit, Brevin Jordan kind of jumped off the screen and making some big plays and running around out there. But I feel like Dalton Schultz could be a really solid value if you decide to punt on tight end. If you're in a startup and you punt on tight end for a while and you
Mhm.
pick up a Dalton Schultz, you feel pretty solid about that, especially if he's on Houston or, as Bogey said, I'm not crazy about the Dolphins, but If he's back on Houston, could be a tremendous value and probably somebody that gets overlooked in that sense.
Mhm.
You know, he had that crazy year with Dallas. And I know you were on him that year that he was in Dallas, but
Mhm.
pretty much after that, you were like, yeah, nah, I'm good. You kind of flipped the script
Because
once that season was over.
because we didn't know what was if he was gonna re-sign or not, like what the deal was gonna be. I mean,
Yeah.
and he winds up going to Houston. So
Yeah, and I just think the emergence of a lot of young up and coming tight ends kind of vaults him down. And listen, you could use that to your advantage, right? It makes him a bit of a better value.
mhm.
You know, especially if you have one of those older tight ends, right? If you have a Kelsey, if you have, you know, a Kittle, like I said, that gets banged up, a Mark Andrews, right? He could be a nice little handcuff if you decide to go that route. Or like I said, you punt on tight end, you end up with Dalton Schultz, you don't feel terrible about it.
What was it? He could have been a top 5 tight end in 2022 if Dak. Remember Dak got hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Like shit
And
wasn't rolling.
he was still a bottom tight end one. He
Yeah.
finished 11 in PPR.
Yeah.
So, and
Yeah.
3 the
Yeah.
year before that, where he just had a really good year.
Yeah, but I feel like for him, it's more of like, the product of this situation than kind of his
Mm-hmm.
actual talent. Like, perfect situation on the Texans. Like you've got a nice high power on the ball.
He
He
fits
was
in.
just in with Dallas with Dak, so he fits in there. So I
Yep.
do like Schultz. It's just I don't know how much really necessarily I do want to pay for him. But where else can he possibly go?
Seeing here Jets. Jets would be interesting in the chat.
Okay. Rams. I can see that.
Rams would be interesting. I don't mind that. You still got
Schultz. Rams.
Stafford slinging it around there.
Yeah.
Bengals, PB Dubs said Bengals. That would be a nice
Okay. That could be. That could be.
'cause
But, like, you guys let me know, like, what are you realistically going out and paying for Schultz? Like, what are you paying for Schultz? Like, is it a late second? Like,
I feel like a
is it a
third would
is it a
be kind of
mid-second? Like, I don't know if I wanna necessarily wanna pay that. I guess I'll pay a late second, but not even. I'm not doing it now. Maybe on the
I feel
clock,
like that would
like,
be
if there's nobody
stretching
that
it.
I
Yeah.
like. Yeah, like, maybe on the clock, but like I said, probably if I can't get him for a third, I'm probably just gonna hold him. I mean, if I can't get him for a third, I'll probably just grab somebody else in that particular range, but
I just feel like he always gets just overlooked, in terms of
Schultz
I
sucks.
think he's good, man. And Bogey's not having it.
Like I think like we kind of hit it on the head where like he's good, but it's not like the talent that
But
the situation
the
is kind of
situation.
situation is making it, which is a lot of like what happens with running backs nowadays, where it's really
Mm-hmm.
about your situation and opportunity. Like
Yeah.
that's really what it is. Doug said he'll leave a like. Appreciate you, Doug.
Yes, sir.
hmm Washington Chargers. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Chargers would
Rather
be
buy Dol
interesting.
yeah, exactly. Like, if you can't buy Schultz for cheap, go buy Dolchich because he probably cost you nothing, you know? But he's probably a guy we're staying away from. I mean, we did the tight end rankings, like,
Mm-hmm.
he wasn't relatively high at all, like, it's hard for me to put him up there,
Yeah, like you said, he's just a product of his circumstance.
you know? Is he gonna see another, 100 target, 8 touchdowns when you've got, like, Nico Collins and Tank Dell there? Like, I don't
Probably
know,
not.
possibly, but like you said, probably not. Probably not. Diaz says he ain't buying Schultz. Yeah, I mean, and I think for the most of us, like Schultz wasn't relied on as our like tight end one going into last season. So, he shouldn't cost you anything at all, and you shouldn't be in a hole where like you're scrambling to go and buy a Dalton Schultz anyway. So,
Mm-hmm.
it is what it is. Situation, yep. I'm selling Schultz. Yeah, I mean, like, what are you getting for him? That's the other thing. What you getting for him? But yeah, I mean, That's pretty much it for tonight. I mean, guys, throw out any other questions you guys have. Anything else you want to talk about? But all right, next week we're gonna do the wide receivers next week. I gotta sit down and make the fucking folder and get all the things in there so we can do the tier maker on that. So we'll do the wide receivers next week, and then we'll be getting into rookies. We're gonna start doing rookie drafts. We'll do startup drafts. We'll do a bunch of mocks and stuff. So that's what we'll be getting into in the next few weeks here. So.
And free agency is going to be approaching too, so there should be some good trades and
I mean, I have a bunch of like roster reviews sitting in the inbox in the email. So I'm thinking maybe we do like one night where, and it might not be a Tuesday, it could be another night where we just knock out like a bunch of, like we just do some kind of marathon where we knock out fucking a bunch of them.
I like it.
Can we get a neck crack? I cracked. I don't know if you heard it, but
I heard a little bit.
Did you?
A little bit, yeah.
Darnell Washington. Oh God, yeah. But Arthur Smith, you never know now, right? I mean, Darnell Washington's a big boy. I didn't like him coming in just for the simple fact that like I thought he would be used more as like a blocker. Like nobody's going to be using him a ton in the red zone, but I don't think he's taking Muth's job. Nah, Muth is a pass catcher. Unless they just don't resign Muth. I mean, if they don't resign him and he goes somewhere else, then yeah, maybe Washington is the guy. Need a roster review for my sub league. All right, Diaz.
Not Diaz. That team.
Draft.
I'll give you a quick. I'll give you a quick review. Team's trash. Review over.
But yeah, throw any last questions you have before we get up out of here. We'll see y'all next week. And like I said, yeah, we'll do the wide receivers next week. I'm telling you now, there's going to be a huge tier. I'm just telling you now.
Be prepared. Expect it.
So be prepared for there to be like a tier 1 and tier 2, and like that's it. But yeah, we'll talk about some of the guys there. It's gonna be interesting.
Yep.
Focal point in the red zone on thirds down. That's true. I mean, Darnell Washington could be throwing passes next year in the red zone. So
Pittsburgh needs to figure out their quarterback situation. I heard Russ was a possible option there. Russ Fields, obviously.
Yeah, Roman Wilson, Baker. Those are two of my guys. I had posted something on Instagram. I posted like my top 12, and then a bunch of like sleeper guys that I like. That was probably a little while ago. But yeah, Javon Baker was one of the guys, and also Roman Wilson I have in my top 12. I mean, I know he didn't have that much like crazy college production, but he's a guy that did really well at the Senior Bowl, and I think at the Combine, like he's going to open some eyes too. Like he's a guy that can do a lot of things, and if he finds himself in the right situation, like he can be really good. But yeah, I'm interested to see all these guys. I mean, running backs especially, because that I feel like is the hardest to kind of determine right now. And the draft is really the one thing that kind of puts the running backs kind of into place of kind of how you rank them. But I think I want to see Keon Coleman. I don't have him that high up in my ranks, but I think that he's going to test really well. Who else? I have to check my damn my post. Who else I have up here? Hold on. Damn, I'm cracking my neck again.
Well, I do that shit every morning. Feels fantastic.
Why can't I change this? Troy Franklin is a guy that I want to see. Brian Thomas, Ladd. I mean, there's a bunch of guys. Who else? Tez Walker. I think he was a guy that found himself in a lot of the right spots at the right times. he just wasn't catching the ball at the Senior Bowl. So, people kind of have that look at him. Jalen Polk, I have in my top 12, which a lot of people don't, but I like him. I mean, he played with Odunze, and he was still able to put up over 1,000 yards. Until next time. Yeah, guys, until next time. Appreciate y'all. Roman Wilson at 6. Yeah, I have him at 11 right now, but he can move up. I mean, like I said, he's a guy I'm very interested in. Justin, what up, Justin? Appreciate you. All right, later, PB Dubs. Appreciate you. But yeah, let's get up out of here. Appreciate you guys. We'll see y'all next week. Hammer, you got anything else you want to add?
Oh man, hell of a stream. I'm excited for the receiver rankings. Can't wait to get that bad boy rolling.
Yeah, we won't put the rookies in there, or we'll add them in at the end maybe. Like we kind of been doing. But all right, guys, we out.